welcome to A Voice and Beyond. Thank you for being on the show. We have Dr. Romie Mushtaq. How are you?
Oh, Dr. Marissa, my sister in STEM, it is an honor to join you. Thank you for having me. And thank you to the listeners for putting us between their ears. I don't take anybody's time for granted.
Oh, that's beautiful. No, you are here. You are doing incredible work. I'm going to introduce you to the audience and allow them to step into your world here for a moment. So, Dr. Romie, you are a distinguished neurologist and creator of the BrainSHIFT protocol. You're a leading authority in stress management and leadership wellness. And just recently, you released your amazing book, The Busy BrainCure, the 8-week plan to find focus, tame anxiety, and sleep again. Well, I feel like I need to have that all intravenously right now. Dr. Romie, you are also a highly sought after speaker, and your work has been featured in outlets like Forbes, NBC, and you've also been on the TEDx stage as a speaker. Wow, what a privilege it is to have you here. And what I love about your work is that it's not just academic, it's practical, it's actionable, and it's truly urgently needed in today's high stress work environments. We are all stressed out, we are all maxed out, we are living in chaotic times, crazy times. You know, sometimes we look at what's going on around us and no wonder we're so stressed. But tell us about your journey and how you've come to the point where you're at now doing this brilliant work.
I thank you for that introduction. I want to start there from just one fellow doctor to another and to all the other women leaders that are on their journey listening to this. One is take a moment and pause today and honor another woman's credentials as elegantly as Dr. Marissa just did to mine, and honor your own as well. We need to normalize that women are thought leaders globally in their areas. So thank you for that. Did I grow up knowing I was going to do this? You know, there was like that little intuition when we're children that I had elders like my mom and my aunties would be like, oh, she's crazy. I remember when I was a little girl in the 4th grade, knowing that I have a book in me. It was the weirdest feeling. I was a voracious reader as a child, but I was like, I am going to be an author one day. I had no idea what that entailed or meant, but you just know. And my heroes, my sheroes on TV in those days were Barbara Walters, Connie
Wow.
Chung, and
Mm-hmm.
Oprah Winfrey, women
Oh,
who were
yes.
doing the news.
Mm-hmm.
They were poised and
Mm-hmm.
smart and on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be like, Mom, I want to grow up to be like them one day. And she's like, are you out of your mind? They are not going to put a brown girl on TV. We have one daughter and you will become a doctor. That is all I heard growing up. Yes. Did
Yeah,
you get
I
the same
get it.
messaging from your parents too?
Well, I was raised to be a wife and a mother in the
Oh, same. Yeah.
Italian community. It was
Yes.
not about having an education. But
Interesting.
but likewise, from the age of 5, I knew what I wanted to be, and that was to be a professional singer.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's what I ended up doing for most of
Yes.
my career was
Yes.
I've spent most of my life on stage. And then I've always known I've wanted to do better. I wanted to have that education, and I didn't start really educating myself till my children grew up.
Ah.
So
I
interesting.
I love this. We both knew, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have a timeline, but we just knew where we'd end
Yes.
up. And so, back in the United States, just to frame it, because I know you have a global audience, as do I. When I was growing up as a young girl in the late 1970s and 1980s, in the United States, girls did not track into science, technology, engineering, math, and medicine. Even back then in the public school system,
Mm-hmm.
all girls were told. I come from a very traditional culture. If people are listening to this and they can't see you and I right now, I'm a woman of South Asian descent and English is my 3rd language, and having immigrant parents here. And back then girls were told to go take a typing class and become a secretary.
Yes.
You needed work,
Yes.
or take
Yes.
another home economics class and learn cooking and
Hmm.
cleaning to keep house one
Exactly.
day. Yeah. But I didn't. I thank goodness for my mom and my dad and my elders and my teachers. And I went to medical school and became the doctor my aunties expected me to marry. And I entered neurology at a time where less than 5% of the brain doctors in the United States were women. And really loved my job as an MD medical doctor. Not only was I seeing patients, I was doing cutting edge research in women's hormonal health in the brain and epilepsy and migraines and teaching medical students. And I was not taking care of myself. I don't
Mm.
know if anybody else can relate to this. I mean, back
Hmm.
then, you weren't
Hmm.
allowed to talk about having a mental health problem at work, let alone there was no word like burnout. I just felt like my brain cells were on fire. And I couldn't cope during the day without excessive amounts of caffeine. And I was anxious all the time and worried, and chasing the next goal or the next title or the next pair of designer shoes people will read about in my book. And I learned the hard way, Dr. Marissa, that chronic stress can cause physical disease and chronic stress can kill you.
Mm.
I almost died and I should have known better.
Really?
I'm a brain doctor. Yeah. I was 33, 34 years old, and I ended up in life-saving surgery. And
What
I
happened to
remember,
you, if you don't
yeah,
mind me
no,
asking?
no, not at all.
What was
And we'll
going
give you
on
the link to the TED
physically?
Talk. Physically, it started with chest pain, and I went to the doctor, and they're like, you know what? You're just stressed out, and you have acid reflux like everybody else. You need to
Mm.
stop the coffee, stop the wine, stop the chocolate. I did. It didn't work. And as time progressed, I started to wake up in the middle of the night, choking on my own saliva and vomit and getting frequent pneumonia. And we knew something was wrong. I'm young. Like, what's going on? I have a rare medical disorder known as achalasia. And by the time it was diagnosed, I was just so stressed out that the symptoms were severe. I was the youngest case they had ever seen and one of the most severe. And I had precancerous lesions in my esophagus.
Oh my gosh.
And so I end up in surgery. And I remember laying there, Dr. Marissa, in the hospital bed thinking, I was raised to do this, to grow up and be a good student and be a good doctor and a dutiful daughter. And here I am in the hospital bed going, nothing I've learned in medical school is going to help me now. What do I do? And then you fast forward to today. We are recording this podcast in 2024. I went on a global healing journey for myself, went back and got certified in mindfulness and integrative medicine. And as I was finding the solution to heal my burnout and my busy brain, I was like, oh my gosh, this is why the universe gave me such strong message as a child. I was meant to go through this mess so I could help other people clean up theirs. And that's why I'm here today.
That's incredible. That's incredible. You know, don't you? You know when you've arrived at that point where you're meant to be.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you
And
get
this is
there,
it. We are here.
sometimes in life we don't know why things happen to us. And
Yes. But
then
they're happening for us and we
they
don't
have
realize it. We don't
not
realize it in the
not at
moment.
the
Oh,
time. No. And then when we get to
yeah.
a certain milestone or an event in our lives, we look back and we think all those things that at the time were either tragic or traumatic or so difficult, they were massive challenges and hurdles. They were all meant to help us grow and to become and to arrive at our final destination. But we are continuing to evolve and grow, obviously. It's
Yes.
not the
It
this
is.
isn't the end for you. There's still so
No.
much work you have to
There's
do.
work to be done. I mean, you never get done doing the work when you're on this path of becoming a better leader, of self-development, of healing mind, body, spirit. It's an ongoing journey. But I share that having come out the other side, because what I just told you was a neat talking point
Mm.
that I've learned to condense into a story from my speaking and writing in the last 2 minutes. But I really felt called to speak to you and your audience in Australia and around the world today because somebody is in the middle of their mess. And I wonder if they can relate to that awful, awful feeling I had in the surgeon's office when he was like, Romie, we're going to need to do emergency surgery. And it may be multiple surgeries. And there was this moment where hope departed my soul. It just literally,
Yes.
I was like, my
Yep.
spirit detached.
Mm-hmm.
I did. That is the only thing I know how to describe.
Mm-hmm.
And if
Mm-hmm.
you're sitting here listening to this right now, I am here with Dr. Marissa, so both of us can hold the hope for you. And I am here to say, my sisters, your brain is not broken, your mind is not a mess, and hope did not depart your soul. We are here with a solution. Like, that is what I felt so strongly called when I was meditating, getting ready for your podcast.
Ah, this is this is a little bit emotional for me. I'm getting
Mm.
emotional on my own
Tell me what's
show.
coming up.
No,
Yeah.
I feel
What's
like you're
coming up,
talking
sister?
to me right now. I feel like I'm in a bit of a mess right now. Here I am being the thought leader. Here I am inspiring people. But, and I hope by me sharing that other people realize they are not alone. I feel like I'm in a little bit of a crisis point. There's things going on in my life. And I did your brain test, but I don't want to talk about this right now
You
because
know
I
what? You
really,
did. I'm here to be
yeah,
present.
yes.
And
But
two things can simultaneously be true. You are a thought leader helping people, and there is an aspect of our lives that feels messy. And hope may be like something we feel is like a distant, like goal that you're grasping at. And sister, I
mm,
got you. I'm here.
yeah,
We're
thank
here for
you.
each other today.
Thank you. But I just want to ask the question that a lot of people talk about stress and a
Hmm.
lot of people talk about anxiety. I teach at a university, and basically my students are probably aged somewhere between 17 and 30. And they come in and they are highly anxious.
Hmm.
A lot of them, well, there are many of them who are medicated or are seeking
Hmm.
help from
Hmm.
psychologists.
Great.
There
Yeah.
are, yes, but there seems to be a lot more talk about this. So,
Hmm.
first up, my question is there a difference between stress and anxiety?
Oh, yes.
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 Okay, let's start
Yes.
there.
Yeah, you asked me, is there a difference between stress and anxiety? If that's kind of saying like, is there a difference between butter and apples?
Oh,
You can
really?
put butter and apples together in the oven with a few other ingredients and make a nice apple bake, right?
Mm-hmm.
But normally you don't put apples and butters together. So let's
Okay.
break it down. Stress, there's different kinds of stress. Stress can be something that is taxing us physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, right? Where people get stress wrong in today's world is we're defining stress the way it used to be defined in a pre-pandemic world, where everything is fine and you might be nervous because you're in university and you've got a final exam coming up, or
Mm-hmm.
you've got a big presentation at your job. That's acute stress. It's over in a few hours or a few days. Most of us after the pandemic, regardless of what age or stage of life we're in, we are living under chronic stress. There is something that is always taxing us personally, professionally, in some aspect of our life. One little thing comes along, like that, sales report that's due at work or the final exam at uni, and it's going to push you over the edge. That's
Yes.
chronic stress. Okay.
Right.
Chronic stress, as I've researched it in my book, The Busy BrainCure, can lead to inflammation in the brain, known as neuroinflammation. And it actually can change the structure and function of your brain in a negative way, especially in an area of the brain that I call the hypothalamus, the airport traffic control tower. And from that area of the brain, I shared my story with you all because that area of the brain controls the rest of our brain and our body, and it can cause disease in the brain, in our body. That's stress. Does that make sense? That's like we're talking
Yes.
about the butter now. Okay.
Okay. So,
Anxiety is like over here. So anxiety, people we lump anxiety into like all one, but there's actually psychologically in the classification, there's 8 subtypes of anxiety. They all can happen in different ways and for different reasons. Can being under chronic stress lead to inflammation and anxiety? Absolutely. There are lots of other reasons that we look for as a neurologist and integrative medicine doctor to get to the root cause of your anxiety. you know, the simple things is known as situational anxiety. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to I'll use a personal example. I always have been a bad test taker. Taking a test would cause me stress. So I would have test anxiety. That's situational anxiety. Once the test is over, the anxiety is gone, regardless if I did good or bad, right? There is panic disorder. There's chronic anxiety disorder. There's ruminating anxiety. So there's lots of different types of anxiety, but I'm here to really shed light on something I've been researching is
Mm-hmm.
the busy brain. Can I explain that?
Sure.
That when we're chronically stressed and we're pushing ourselves to the edge, the way I was once upon a time, and on the way to burnout, three things happen to high achieving adults. This is like 18 and older.
Mm-hmm.
We get ruminating anxiety. We can't stop
Yes.
the loop of worries in our brain,
Yes.
having difficulty focusing during the day, or even adult onset ADHD. And then we are tired, but we can't fall asleep at night because of racing thoughts in our brain. Or we wake up in the middle of the night going, oh my God, I have so much
Mm-hmm.
work to do,
Mm-hmm.
right?
That
That's a
sounds like
busy brain.
me right
Yeah.
now. That is
Okay.
me right now. Everything you described.
Yes. Yes. And the last thing people need is another 3 tips on Instagram or TikTok to fix it, because something deeper is going on in the brain. And sorry, that noise you just heard on the microphone is me clapping for like effect, because I'm like flailing my
Yes.
hands on the
Yes.
video.
Yes.
There's something deeper going on, sisters and brothers. This ain't about no tips or tricks. We need to get to the root cause of a busy brain.
Mm-hmm. Can a situational event lead to that busy brain? Because I have a situation that I'm dealing with that is external but greatly impacts my life. So
Yeah.
can something going
Yeah.
on outside of a person's world,
Absolutely. So
but
this is, yes, but chronically, it's going on for a long time, right? So when I think of my illness, I had gone through a divorce. I was working hard as a female physician in a male dominated department and world. That was chronic stress. I was chronically sleep deprived from my job. I
mm-hmm,
loved my job, but I was doing way too much and a perfectionist in all of it, right? So there were a lot of chronic life events going on. So thank you for sharing. So if you're dealing under chronic stress, then these acute things keep coming along. Like you're on a deadline to get your podcast out. You're teaching at the university. You probably have to do grades for students,
yeah,
right?
yes.
Those are things you have to do that'll add up in stress, and that can actually lead in high achieving professionals like you and I to these symptoms of a busy brain. Yes.
Okay, so what do you describe then to be a busy brain? What are
Mhm.
the highlights?
Okay, let's see. Do you have a busy brain? And we have a free busy brain test that everyone can take, and we'll put it in the show notes here, and it's all over my website and social media. But this is the
I
symptoms.
did it.
You did it, and she has a brain strain, so that's a mild busy brain. You have a mild busy brain, but we can fix it.
Okay,
We're gonna
I
talk
love
about it.
that. I have a
Yes.
brain strain.
It's called a brain strain. A mild
Yeah,
busy brain
okay.
is mild inflammation. A score higher than that, and we start seeing physical symptoms due to burnout. So you're in the mild category. It's easy to walk back, you know, but this is it in busy brain. Do you wake up and you're like, girl, don't even talk to me until I get caffeine? And I'm going to tell Dr. Marissa and Dr. Romie it was just one latte, but really it was a lot of energy drinks and a caffeine pill. Or maybe the doctor even put you on Adderall because you can't focus. No judgment, but you're just it's like, and then you're like low-key anxious all day, and you've got multiple screens open in front of you and you can't focus. Everything keeps dinging. And you're like, I'm never going to finish this email. It's so simple. It should only take me 3 minutes, and it's taking me 37 minutes. And the to-do list is piling up faster than you can tolerate it. And you're so anxious. You're like, wait, I heard that podcast with Dr. Marissa and Dr. Romie today. I'm going to go home and chill. And you go home and you can't take the edge off. So you're like, let me have a glass of wine or 3. And you do that. And then you go to put your head down to sleep, and you're like, I can't shut down the 72 warring conversations in my brain. Or you fall asleep because of the alcohol or a sleeping pill, but you wake up somewhere between 2 and 4 o'clock,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, ooh, I'm wide awake. I may as well. Yep, you too, huh? And I may as well get some work done.
Mm.
That's a busy brain. That is it.
That's
That's how.
not me. I
No?
can say I don't relate to that.
Okay.
Exactly. No, I'm not that level.
Not that level. Okay.
No.
But any one of those symptoms or triad can be it, right? Now,
Mhm.
if the only thing that you can relate to, and you have that busy brain score, is that you're waking up in the middle of the night and you can't sleep, as a woman, I want to look at your hormones, and we'll get into that. The brain
Yes.
shift, the shift is 5 key areas that we assess because not everyone's the same. S is for sleep and circadian rhythm. H is for hormones. And that's the key that we look for.
I do relate to that because I hope this is not too much information for our
No,
listeners, but I have been waking up in the middle of the night at around 4 a.m. So that's not really middle of the night, but very early.
that's the
Yeah.
middle of the night. I mean, it
Okay.
really is. Most
hmm
people, you should be waking up when the sun is rising.
Yes. So this is pre-sun rising, and I've been waking up covered in perspiration.
Mm,
Now, interestingly, this hasn't happened for a long time.
mm,
And when this situational anxiety
mhm,
hit me,
mhm,
I started to go through these
mhm,
hormonal changes again,
mhm,
like
mhm.
something shifted with my
Yeah.
hormones,
Yep.
because I'm in the midst of a situation that
Mm,
there is going to be a solution, but
good.
I can't get there
Yeah.
for a
And here's the thing that I say is we have to take a busy brain, because some people say, "Hey, Dr. Romie, you know what? When my divorce is over, the stress will be gone and I'll feel better." Or when my child gets into uni, or I sell this house and buy a new one, I'll feel better. When we wait on external circumstances to change, our brain state won't, because we haven't
no,
healed the inflammation. But what's
yes,
happening is there is something externally going on, and it's affecting your mood. That can affect the structure and function of your brain and your hormones and immune system, psycho, neuro, immunoendocrinology. And and so what's happening? The chronic stress causes the neuroinflammation in the hypothalamus of the
hmm
brain, the circadian rhythm, and it disrupts our sleep wake cycle
hmm
and also hormones. And so when I hear there's a return of increased temperature and perspiration under high stress, not just for you, Dr. Marissa, but anybody listening,
hmm
here are the 5, 6 things I think about.
okay,
One is alcohol. Okay. And again, I'm not completely anti-alcohol,
yep,
but if somebody has a high score on the busy brain test, we tell them no alcohol, because man, woman, even 1 ounce of hard liquor, or half a can of beer, or 4 ounces of wine
hmm
will raise your brain and body core temperature in the
hmm
hypothalamus. And
I
so,
do believe that.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah. I mean, it's science,
yes,
right? And
yes,
then, yeah.
yes,
And then
because
as you're metabolizing it out, you're going to have the sweats. And if you're wearing a sleep tracker, you see you're not getting into deep sleep, and your temperature rises, and you're going to wake
hmm
up
hmm
sweating out the booze, as they call it. Yeah.
Yes, yes, because I usually have at least 4 nights a week alcohol free, and then
Good.
I will have a drink on the weekend.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
pre this event, I would only wake up with that temperature increase when I had been having a drink, and I'm not an
Yeah.
excessive drinker, but even one
But even a
drink,
little bit,
yeah,
one drink.
yeah, would exacerbate that. But
Mhm.
those nights that I didn't drink, I didn't have that increase in temperature.
There you go.
But now
Yeah.
that increase in temperature is there
It's happening.
every
Yeah.
night.
Okay. So the simplest one is to take out the alcohol. And for many
hmm
people, men or women, that does the trick. But when there's chronic stress going on, we have to look. And so 3, 4 other things we look at is, in men and women especially, I look at a thyroid. When we're under chronic stress and the airport traffic control tower is off, I want to know a full thyroid panel. And in chapter 16 of the book, we have the lab slip, because most traditional doctors only check a TSH and T3 and T4. And there's actually 8 labs, and it's on the website as well. So it's there, and available globally, by the
Wow.
way, best-selling
Yeah.
book and
Yes.
Kindle, Audible, Amazon, wherever you buy books in Australia, it's there. So we break that down. And so that's the one thing. The second thing then we look for is somebody under so much chronic stress and busy brain that they're having insulin regulation problems. So your blood sugar drops in the middle of the night, even if you're eating clean and you didn't have a lot of carbs, and that's causing you to sweat. hypoglycemia. So alcohol, hypoglycemia, thyroid, and then the last one I go to, and people are like, wait, you're a woman's doctor. Shouldn't you be saying menopause, Dr. Romie? Shouldn't you be talking to Dr. Marissa about her progesterone and estrogen levels? Yes and no, because so many women run to that and their doctors only check the FSH, LH, estrogen, progesterone levels, and they give them bioidentical hormones or hormones. And if you don't check the other things, you're not going to get better.
Interesting. I can relate to little bits of
Bits of that.
everything.
Ah,
Like there's a
thank you
little
for
bit of,
sharing.
yeah, because yes, I can feel the difference in temperature, body temperature when I drink. I think that my metabolism has changed because right now, like I'm a lightweight and I'm having trouble putting weight on.
Mm.
Yes, and
It
also,
makes me want to check your thyroid, sister.
yes, and also that
Mm-hmm.
hypoglycemic, there
Yeah.
are times I feel my blood sugar levels absolutely plummet.
Mm.
So I find that I have to eat regularly.
Yes. Yes.
So every
And
couple of hours, I've got to put
yes.
food.
And probably have like a healthy fat or high protein, like right before bedtime, like peanut
Mhm.
butter, on apples
Ah,
or something. Yeah.
so I don't want to make this about me, but
No,
I feel
I'm
like
glad
I
you are,
have.
because here's the thing, like there's no coincidences in the universe. And I feel like you're sharing this and somebody listening is like, oh my God, Dr. Marissa, thank you for breaking it down in simple symptoms. So now Dr. Romie is telling me what I need to ask my doctor.
Mm. So with this idea of stress and anxiety, you also talk about burnout. And
Mhm.
we're all working so much harder than what we used to, or are we? Because I remember that when my parents came to Australia, they were post-war migrants and they
Mm.
came here with nothing. And they
Uh,
worked really, really hard. They were working 7 days a week. Are we actually working harder, or do we think we're working harder? Like, what is really going on in the world today? Is it a mental state of working? I am working so hard, and
no,
you
this
feel
this
like
isn't
someone's
about, yeah, this
going to
isn't
give
about
you a
comparing
tr-
ourselves to our parents, right? Because it really depends on the generation. That we know for some generations, like the silent generation or boomers, like Gen X, we're going to live longer than them, right?
Mhm.
Healthcare advances, but now that's reversing with Gen Z. So let me backtrack. When you ask me, are we working harder than our parents? We're working differently.
Mm,
And that differently is due to three things. Is most people of your my parents' generation, when they left work and went home. Now, my dad was also a doctor, so he had a pager, or patients would call at home, but he could still come home and exercise and spend time with the kids and have dinner with his family. In today's world, most people in their jobs never get to leave their jobs. We're checking our cell phones for text messages, emails,
mm,
global, work teams. So somebody is always working and is needing an answer. There's this FOMO for work and this change in work culture that in order to be a good employee, you always have to be working. So, or even as an entrepreneur, right? That hustle culture. So that's number one, is that we've lost our boundaries. Number two, in a post-pandemic world where we were already chronically stressed before the pandemic, and we went through social isolations and this like global trauma and everything that's going on, we're at mental capacity. So the same job that our families were doing and we're doing today is we're arriving with less mental capacity. We've been through a lot. Like, the only thing that
mm,
we could maybe equate this to is the global Great Depression. But even that, didn't have this level of social isolation. And then the third thing is we are not doing things that are healthy. Like I don't that tell me about your childhood in Australia. My childhood in a small town in America growing up, like, mama wanted us and aunties out of their hair. They were like, kids, go play outside. And we didn't eat a lot of processed foods like we do
we
today.
didn't. Yeah, we didn't eat
And
any.
yes, and today kids and adults, we don't put our phones down. for social media, for binging a TV series, a movie, being on TikTok, like working. And
Mm,
even that, it's not even one device, it's so many.
mm.
And
So
that's what's
true.
changed, rewired our brains and rewired our lives. And that not a lot of people have that luxury anymore, Dr. Marissa, do they? To say,
Mm,
I'm going to take the weekend off from work and not check in at all. And if they are, they're on other devices doing other stuff.
mm. Well,
Mhm.
I put my hand up here and I try to take time for myself during the week. Exercise for me is really important for my
Oh,
mental
yes.
health.
What kind of exercise do you do?
I like doing Pilates twice a
Oh,
week and
yeah.
going to the gym and doing weight training twice a week. So I
Excellent.
find that that's a really nice balance. And then trying to grab some time where I can go for a walk
Yeah.
in the sun just to
Yeah.
get that vitamin D. But I also walk to the gym and I walk to my Pilates class.
Nice.
When I was growing up, my mum didn't drive a car. So
Ah,
as children, my brother and I, we would walk everywhere with my mum because my
I love
father
that.
would be at work. We would walk to the store. We would walk and do shopping and going to church and visiting people. We would walk everywhere. Going to school was another thing. And so I was raised that we would walk and
Yeah.
catch public transport. And the
Yeah.
funny thing is that I'm finding as I get older, I am going back to that.
I
Wherever
love
I
it.
can, I am walking now.
Nice. Nice.
And I love it. I
Yeah.
I I feel that it's so less stressful to walk somewhere than to drive. But you also feel better. Like as soon as I put my foot I step outside the front door and just breathing in that fresh air and feeling that sun on you, your whole mood changes.
Yes.
But the problem is, I do work 7 days a week. Even if on a Sunday I spend 2 hours doing some work on my podcast, I'm still
Mhm.
working, but
It
I'm in the
is.
process now of removing that. I'm
Okay.
making changes
Okay.
to remove that.
Good. I'm gonna
Yes.
check in on you. Here's my thing is, right now, my job, I like you, I run my own business. So I'm a keynote speaker and we've launched a book. So I'm doing all this media and podcast tours. So that's like job number 2 in itself.
Mhm.
Job number 3 is I serve as chief wellness officer for a company known as Great Wolf Resorts here in the United States. So my job as a doctor and chief wellness officer is to think through the wellness strategy of over 10,000 employees.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
yes, do I check in with my work email and my team and my Slack channels? Or sometimes, like this weekend, I'm going to have a little bit of work to check in on the weekend, but I schedule it, right? But there
Yes.
has to be a pause where I am like, I am going to take a break for several days in a row, or at least one day on the weekend. And when we take that break, it's what else can I do to disconnect from digital devices?
Mm,
Because we find we're more productive when we take breaks. And listen, we
yes.
live in the real world. A lot of people listening are like you and I, and they've got a lot going on between family and work. And they're like, I'm working 7 days a week.
Mm,
So then we break it down even further and say, for every hour you're sitting in front of the screen, you need to get up for 10 minutes. So the ideal thing for your brain to reduce stress levels is to get up 8 times a day in an 8-hour workday for 5 to 10 minutes and get away from what we say the scene of the crime, which is your desk.
I agree. That's what I
Mhm.
tend to try and do is that when is to take a break and go and do something else that's totally
Yes.
unrelated. For example, go and even like tidy the bedroom.
Yes. Oh,
Do
except me. Let me tell you, the only thing that'll stress me out more, I ain't gonna lie, Dr. Marissa, is if I gotta fold my laundry. That's the thing that stresses me
yeah.
out more. But I'm lucky I have a dog, so he gets to go out frequently. Um,
Mm,
and we do that. But yeah, tidying up the
yes.
room. The idea is to engage your hands and your eyes and your sense of sound, hearing, touch, smell into other things. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So your brain shift protocol, what sets it apart from other modalities or other ways of dealing with these issues of stress and burnout and anxiety?
Yeah. most people come to us and they've already tried all these tips and tricks of getting up outside, getting off the computer, all those things. And they're like, something is really going on. And I want to get to the root cause of it. So two things happen is we walk you through a step-by-step 8-week protocol, starting in chapter 10 of the book, known as brainSHIFT, the micro habits to restore 5 key areas. S is sleep or circadian rhythm. H is hormones. I is markers of inflammation. We talked about blood sugar as an example. F is how you use food to fuel yourself without going on a diet, and T is technology. So we walk you through this 8-week protocol that we put 1,000 people through that actually heals the burnout, that will improve your score by at least 25%, but you'll feel better. You're like, I'm focusing. I'm sleeping through the night, not waking up with those hot flashes anymore. The stress from the life situation you were discussing that's going on, it's that life situation still there, but it's not hijacking my brain. And the best part is we have labs that we ask people to go get. And so when you're under chronic stress and have a busy brain, things can happen. And we ask you to go get screened so it can be treated. And that's the magic of this protocol. So 3 things: 8-week program, the habits that stack on each other that make you feel better. The second thing is we get to the root cause of why you're feeling anxious, why you're not sleeping, why you have ADHD. And the third thing is we send you for labs and to find an actual solution to heal. So that is it. Because you, like the example is, I'm like, sister, ooh, we got to check your fasting insulin, glucose levels, and hemoglobin A1C and your full thyroid. Like, we need to get to the bottom of this. Yeah.
I love that, because a lot of the books that are out there, and a lot of the, oh, bless you.
Thank you. Pardon me.
So a lot of the books that are out there and a lot of the thought leaders, they have all these wonderful philosophies, but sometimes there is something more going on, isn't there? It's
Yes, girl.
not just
Yes.
about putting up a
Yes.
sticky note on the mirror and reading an affirmation every morning. That's
Yes.
not going to cut it.
That isn't. When people come to me, they are like, Dr. Marissa, Dr. Romie, please do not tell me to eat berries and breathe and think about unicorns. There is something going on in my busy brain. And that's what I'm here to fix, so that you can spiritually manifest the life that you want. But when you've got a busy brain, we're disconnected from spirit. Remember I said, oh, departed the soul. Your body is like betraying you. You're like, I'm eating clean. What's going on? That's what's going on. It's your busy brain. You heal it, and then everything is in sync. Brain, body, spirit.
So how many hours sleep should we be getting to be at that optimal brain health, do you believe?
Whatever it takes for you to get up and wake up and be like, I feel good. I'm ready to take on the day. And that's different for everyone, right? It's not just the quantity, but the quality of sleep. Did you get into the deeper stages of sleep? Did you sleep through the night without waking up in the middle of the night? Those things are more important to me.
And are there foods that you believe we should avoid?
Interestingly, I think this is what also sets my book and the protocol apart. And I think a lot of my colleagues in integrative functional medicine were like, what? But I got to tell you, Dr. Marissa, I live in the real world. And in the real world, diet is a 4-letter curse word.
I agree. No,
Yes.
I
And we both
100%
are
agree.
daughter of immigrants. And we have foods that are tied to our ancestry, religious holidays, family memories. I don't want to rob anybody of joy in today's world. Like, in the back of my book, you read the recipes of our loved ones, our comfort foods. I actually want people to have joy by eating comfort food. How do we in the BrainSHIFT protocol control the cause of food? We basically say, hey, if you're going to have caffeine, if you're going to have a soda, if you're going to have tea, coffee, espresso, you're not going to have any sugars with it. No carbohydrates, no white bread, white flour, white sugar, white rice, white potatoes. That's going to spike your blood sugar. If you're going to have one of those things, because listen, I love rice. My people, we love rice. No caffeine for an hour before or after. Yeah.
My people love pasta.
Pasta. Okay. See, like, we are not going to take away the pasta and the rice from families like ours. But if you're going to do that, then 1 hour before and after that meal, no caffeine. That's it. So then you're not putting your brain through this yo-yo of caffeine and adenosine receptors being stimulated and the insulin receptors. That's like pouring gasoline on a fire, and busy brain's like, red alert, inflammation. And it's going to kill your focus and really make you anxious. So you pick one or the other. Then you add a healthy fat to every meal. That's it. olive oil, avocados,
Yes.
coconut oil, fish oil capsules, fish, you name it, whatever it is, healthy fat to every meal. And trust me, after that, like your brain is like golden. You're like, chronic stress? What stress? I'm going to wink in the eye and be like, I got my energy back. So imagine this. Bottom line, I want to say, Dr. Marissa, I hope in the next week, and then you tag me on social media when you do, have some comfort food.
I do. Yeah. Well, I do on a Saturday night. I
Oh,
do.
tell me, what do you make pasta, like homemade pasta?
Oh, tomorrow I'm having the family over, and
Uh-huh.
in the Italian culture, grandma is the word for grandma is nonna. But
No, no, no.
and I have two grandsons, but they call me
Oh,
nonni.
nonni,
And
I
they
love
love
that.
coming to Nonni's house for a
Yes.
big Italian fiesta. So
Amazing.
tomorrow I'm cooking pastas. I'm putting out beautiful fresh fruits and making a dessert. And we're going to have a beautiful gathering where we play games as a family.
I love that.
We enjoy food together. So
Yes.
yes, so
And so
that
once
is
to twice a week, have that. And to me, it's bonus
mm,
if you do it with other people, right? And so
mm.
I'm in the stage of my life, divorced and single, and I'm holding out hope that my life partner and companion is coming in, right? But I'm recording this podcast. It's morning for you and it's evening for me. I'm heading out to dinner with friends after this, right? And that's it. It's once or twice a week with loved ones. Have comfort food. Have the joy.
Mm.
This
Love
world
that.
is robbed of joy and hope. And if you and I can put it back in, well, then this podcast was worth it to whoever listened.
Just listening to you talk about this stuff brings me joy.
Yay!
Because I'm already visualizing it. I'm already feeling it. I'm putting
Yes.
myself in that situation. And I think the key word here not only is comfort food, but sharing with other people. We have become isolationists.
We have.
We are living alone. We are not getting out there. We are not being a part of a broader community or having our tribe and those people that bring us joy.
Yes. Yeah.
We are no longer living that way. And yet I watched that program on Netflix about the centenarians, and one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that those people who live in the blue zones
Mm-hmm.
is that they it was revealed on that program that they are very much in a community where they feel a sense of belonging.
And that was the key. That was the key. People are like, what are they eating? What do they do to exercise? What do they do to keep their brains sharp? The number one thing was the social connections. You are absolutely right. And that sense
Mm,
of belonging. So
yes.
thank you. Thank you for inviting me into your podcast and into your world and giving me a space of belonging this evening halfway
Oh,
across the world.
oh. So most of my listening audience, or a great part of my listening audience, come from the singing teaching community. So we're
Yeah.
not leaders, but in the sense of we are not leading in a Fortune 500 company. We are not big corporate people, but we are leading in a different way. We are
Yes.
mentoring in a different way. And I
Yes.
know that you give a lot of advice and you work with people in that role. We have those students that come in, as I said, they are highly stressed, they are highly anxious. So what should we be doing to serve those students when they come in that way? And because at the same time, we need to be mindful that we are not
The
counselors.
therapist. Mm-mm.
And we have to know our boundaries, but what can we do for those students when they
Yeah.
come in that way?
I mean, thank you for asking that. I'm a firm believer that we are all leaders. And in that moment, when you have a student, you are leading the students, you are leading that classroom, even if it's only one other pupil. We have to manage our own energy. We can't do the fake it till you make it. So if I come in with a busy brain, then people around me are going to feel busy brain or they're going to feel
Mm,
down. So one, it's you've got to focus on your own brain and your own body and your energy. And
Mm,
it doesn't mean you're not having a bad day, but like be aware of it so it's not projecting. Number two, when somebody is having an emotion and they feel safe enough to have it in front of you, there is just one thing they need to hear. I am here and I care. They don't need you to be a therapist. They don't need you to find a solution. They need to hear, I am here and I care. And then I think your community, Dr. Marissa, has the biggest gift of all, and that is the gift of music. We know from centuries of sound healing and music therapy, now the science is catching up, that the act of creating music, making music, listening to music in itself is healing. So
mm.
maybe you're there to heal someone in a different way. Doesn't matter that they're not the next Broadway singer or the next pop star. You're offering them healing in that moment by creating music together.
Yes, so true. And it is that when I'm feeling stressed myself or anxious, I do find that I have to do the work on myself. I can't go into that teaching studio with that energy, that either I have to spend a little bit more time in a meditation or journaling or being very intentional and writing down what my intentions are for my classes that day.
Oh, I was muted. I was going to say you're refocusing your energy, you know? Yeah.
Mhm. Because
Mhm.
otherwise we come in with biases, we don't have patience, and we're not aware of the energy that the other person is bringing into the room. Because usually
Mhm.
when you get to know your students and the people that you're working with, you can tell by the look on their face or the
Mhm.
way that they carry themselves or the words that they're using or their language or their tone of voice that there is something amiss with them. But if you're caught up in yourself, you miss all those cues.
Yeah. Mhm. Yep.
Yes. So
Absolutely.
when you work with leaders in those Fortune 500 companies, what are the main things that you're working with to help them navigate their corporate lives and
I
to
think
lead?
everything we just talked about, it's what is your busy brain score? Let's heal your busy brain and then heal the brains of your team and manage your energy. Like everything I just talked to you about the students, it's the same concept when you're leading a team. It's no different. And it sounds so basic, but I
Mm,
think it's a concept that we've lost. And I work with some of the most brilliant leaders, like you work with some of the most brilliant performers and teachers. And the concept is one and the same. You can read all the leadership self-help books you want and developing emotional intelligence, and all of those things are so important. But it all starts with the state of our brain.
mm.
And that's it. Yeah.
Do you feel that there is a difference between the brain and what we call the mind?
Yes, absolutely. Spiritually and we know anatomically. Absolutely. Yes.
So what is the difference between the brain and the mind then?
You know, brain, I think of the actual physical structure that is protected by the skull. That's has its rich cells and neuronal network that's correct connected with the rest of the brain and the rest of the body. The mind is the combination of the brain, body, and spirit. And it is that kind of thread that takes our intuition and our spirit and integrates it with the functioning of our brain and emotions and into the body. And that's the mind.
Amazing. Dr. Romie, what is your mission?
Mm. You know, in this moment in life, you catch me at a time where I'm very thoughtful. I'm turning 50 this year. And I've had to think of from a strict culture that I come from, that maybe I didn't do things in the order that was expected of women.
Mm,
And yet I've accomplished things that ordinary women don't accomplish. So I've had to really think like, what is my mission and what is my life purpose? And I really say it's this. It's, I don't want you to be sitting and suffering in your brain or your body or spirit like I once was in a hospital, feeling alone and that
mm,
there's nobody there. I know what it feels like. And so my mission is one, anybody that comes in my path to know that you're not alone. Two, that I will hold hope for you until you find it. And 3, let's improve our brain and mental health as individuals and as teams. Like, we have to do that. This is the priority.
Mm. Do you have a final piece of advice that you would like to offer our listeners?
I think I'll repeat it again, is if you find yourself in a place that life is challenging you, I'm here to remind you, your brain is not broken, your mind is not a mess, and hope did not depart your soul. We are here for you.
Beautiful. Is there anything that you would like to add to this interview that perhaps we haven't discussed?
I feel complete and I feel honored to have met you, Dr. Marissa, and served your
Likewise.
audience.
Likewise, it has truly been a joy. We're going to share the links to the Busy
Yes.
Brain test, which I did. It was interesting. And it's weird because when I was doing it, I was thinking to myself, had I have done the test a couple of months ago, my score would have been very different. So it
And there's
can
no
change.
judgment.
No,
It
but
changes. It's
yes.
dynamic. Our brain and our mind is dynamic, as is
Mhm.
life.
Yeah,
Yes.
my responses would have been very different. And we're also going to share the links to your book so people can find you as well as on your website. And it has truly been a joy to have you on the show. I appreciate your time and I love the work that you're doing. I feel that I really need to go and buy this book and do all the tests, get all the bloods.
Start at chapter 11. Start at chapter 11. You'll hear the stories of executives who went through the protocol and teachers and the labs are there in chapter 16. So take it to your GP there in Australia. They will do it.
Amazing. No,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much. Go and enjoy your dinner,
Thank you.
your comfort food with your friends.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Romie.
Thank you, Dr.
Okay.
Marissa.
Bye.